Get some legal analysis with me now. Joey Jackson, CNN legal analyst, and Bob Bianchi is a former head prosecutor in Morris County, New Jersey. So, gentlemen, Joey, let me start with you. So, the fact that Mueller's team met with Davis this week, this Manhattan madam, as she's known in a previous lifetime of hers, what does your gut tell you about what they're looking for as a lawyer?
Brooke, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure with you, Bob Bianchi, too. Listen, here's the reality. The reality is we can't look at this in isolation. You have to look at this in the broader context, right? We have this probe that's going on by the special counsel, and what shoe has not dropped? The shoe relating to, I won't say collusion because it's not a crime, conspiracy, right? Which is the agreement to commit a legal act. And if you do an illegal act with a foreign power, it's problematic. So how does all this relate? Well, Stone happened to be an advisor or strategist to the campaign, and Stone apparently was in contact with a Twitter handle that was tied back to the Russians and Russian intelligence officers. So it demonstrates to me that the special counsel is focusing on Stone. And remember, Brooke, we cannot look at this interview in isolation. Who else were they looking at? They were looking at Andrew Miller, another associate of Stone. They're looking at other people who are of relating and concerning Stone. So what it means to me is they're trying, that is the special counsel, to get that nexus to Russia. What does Roger Stone know, and who would know what he knows but people familiar with him, his associates, and people who have an understanding of his MO, modus operandi, and that would be, of course, someone who you are the godfather to your 2-year-old son. Finally, Brooke, it should be noted the special counsel asked the question as to whether he was actually the father to the son. And so it demonstrates to me that the special counsel is trying to establish that link to Russia so that once and for all we can put to bed the question, who, if anyone, on Trump's campaign was conspiring with Russia to interfere with the election.
So it's what she knew, if she knows anything that's germane to that question you pose. And so, Bob, over to you. I was talking to this documentarian last hour who did this whole, documentary on Netflix on Roger Stone. And so they have all this footage just that's sitting on the cutting room floor. And he was saying the most recent part of the arc of the relationship that was Kristen Davis and Roger Stone was the fact that she was his personal assistant, this clerical assistant, and that a lot of information would have come through her. That said, Bob, the fact is that she went in to talk to the Mueller team on Wednesday voluntarily. What would that tell you?
Brooke, great to be on with you and with Joey. Always a pleasure. It tells me that there's disaster, storm clouds looming over Mr. Stone. Look, in addition to what Joey had indicated, and I agree completely with his analysis, you also have Russians that have been indicted. You got this Guccifer 2.0 that he is actually Roger Stone in contact with. And as a former prosecutor that puts the case together, you don't just interview witnesses that you think may or possibly could have information. That gets done. But to bring her in means that there was something that they were specifically looking for. And the thing I love about all this Russian collusion / conspiracy investigation is the last person that you want, if you're a target of an investigation coming forward, is your attorney, your accountant, your personal assistant / secretary, and that's what she is. And we have all of that here because these people are a repository of data. They know where the bodies are buried. They know where all the skeletons are. So I don't think that, I agree with Joey, if you take the overall arching look at this, she had information that was relevant to Russian interference with the election. And if in fact it's true that they are going to call her into the grand jury, despite what other people may opine, prosecutors just don't put random people into a grand jury. They do it for a specific purpose.
Sure.
So I see the evidence mounting here in a very, at least, poor way with respect to Mr. Stone and potentially others.
Sure. So she may know something that they want to get their hands on, that they know, that we certainly don't know. But I'm wondering, Joey, back to your last point about how this has gotten personal and they're going into Stone's personal life and they're asking questions about, this woman's kid who he's the godfather, but they're asking, could he be the father? And why is that at all related to conspiracy in Russia?
I think it's absolutely related, and follow me here, right? What prosecutors do is you follow the money and you follow the family. What are you looking for? You're looking to ties. You're looking for links. You're looking at associates. Now, you might then say, as the incredible journalist you are, there's a 2-year-old child. What do you mean associates? What associates would a 2-year-old have? Well, slow down. Here's the reality. 2-year-olds, right, need to be fed, need to be clothed. They have trust funds established for college educations. That leads us back to the money trail. trail. Where's the money coming from? Who's funding the child, if it is your child? And so therefore, I think links in terms of money and everything else are highly relevant and critical to who you're dealing with. So who knows where that money is? And you know, Brooke, when prosecutors follow the money, they always come to things. Last point, and I'll say this. When you investigate someone, it could be about Russia. Obviously, this deals with that. But nothing is off limits. You see that as we look at the Manafort prosecution, right? And his efforts to thwart that by saying, what does this have to do with Russia? When you start looking into someone, everything else is fair game. So I do think it's relevant and probative to inquire about the relationship to the child. And I do think that it could have a nexus to Russia. You never know, depending upon who's supporting the child, where the money's coming from, and what is the connection between him and Roger Stone.
Okay, and Bob, I saw you nodding with what Joey was saying. Let me ask you last question. I know you opened by saying storm clouds are brewing, you know, around Roger Stone. So you have Kristen Davis now. You also, as Joey mentioned, you have this close Stone aide, Andrew Miller, who had been ordered to testify in front of the Mueller grand jury, right? He'd been fighting it. So if you put yourself in Roger Stone's shoes, what are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking that I need to get to the U.S. Attorney's Office as quickly as possible, sit down and try to have what we call a proper session with them, ask them whether or not they're interested in any level of cooperation if Mr. Stone, in fact, has information. This is what U.S. attorneys and prosecutors do. It can sound kind of bad, but what they're doing is squeezing the people that have relevant data and information. And Mr. Stone is a hot flash here because he was in contact with individuals who were leaking information, hacking into servers, Guccifer 2.0, WikiLeaks. They're not looking at these things as coincidences. They're looking at it and saying, was somebody else involved in this higher up the food chain? So if I were representing him, I would download all the data he's got. I would go to the U.S. attorneys and say, hey, guys, are you interested?
Bob Bianchi and Joey Jackson, gentlemen, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.